Hi friends, welcome back to the Avocado Toast Budget. If you're new here, my name is Lexa, and to be perfectly honest with you, I am filming this, editing it, and uploading it all on the same day, Monday, because I have a video planned, but I don't know. It's like a heavy topic, I just wasn't really feeling it, and I just needed to change things up. So I thought, what better video to film than some of my favorites, which are reacting to Dave Ramsey. There are always things about Dave that like make my eyes roll, or things that he says that I just can't believe come out of his mouth. And on the other hand, if you have watched my Is the Dave Ramsey Community a Cult video, which if you haven't, still one of my favorite videos that I filmed to date. I worked so hard on it, loved it. I thought like the things that were in it were just almost unbelievable. And if you have watched that, you know that like it goes beyond just Dave Ramsey being annoying to Dave Ramsey being really harmful. So if you don't know much about Dave outside of just his personal finance advice, I would recommend watching that video, or at least like some of it, clicking over it just to kind of see the general shit that's going down. Then I would come back to this video, because I think knowing that stuff makes a difference. Because then you really understand what kind of guy he is and where he's coming from. But this video is a good one. Honestly, I clicked on it not thinking that it would be that bad. And within like 30 seconds of the video, I was like, oh my God, okay, I can make a whole video on this. So that's what we're doing. And the video that we are reacting to is 5 things that will make you wealthy dash Dave Ramsey Rant. 3.5 million views on the Ramsey Show highlights. But in case you couldn't have guessed it already, I don't really think that this was meant to be an educational segment. So don't think that you're gonna get much out of it on the way of like 5 things that'll make you wealthy. Really, the emphasis is just on him yelling. But some of the things that he says are really telling, and I think need to be addressed since he doesn't address them very much. So I'm really excited for this video. If you enjoy videos like this and you want to learn more about saving, investing, paying off debt, and how to finally feel more confident with your money, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Also push that notification bell, that way you never miss an upload, and let's go ahead and get into it. Also, in case any of you are wondering about my hair situation, just a side note real fast, I had dark purple hair. If you haven't seen it in the last video, you could see that. I'll post a picture here. This is a lot of dandruff shampoo and a round of color oops, and it actually looks like hella cute on camera. In person, not so hella cute. I mean, it's fine. It's kind of a vibe, but it's like really patchy, and I feel like it looks purple on camera. It doesn't look purple in person. It looks like blue, gray with some green in it. So honestly, if it looked like it did on camera, I would be like hella happy, but I don't know, it's not looking as cute in person. So my hair is probably gonna change like a bajillion times. So I just wanted to side note that here in case you're wondering what happened to the purple. Okay, moving on.
Now the stuff we teach here, and have for almost 30 years, is proven. It's no longer an opinion. It's not a theory. I don't agree with Dave Ramsey's advice, which would make you wrong. And I know you're writing a blog from your mother's basement, you're looking for clickbait using my name, I understand that, but you're wrong. And it's always humorous to me to see people who are broke on Twitter ragging on the advice that I give. Or a broke 26-year-old journalism student, deeply in student loan debt, writing an article about me. That's humorous because it's stupid. Here's the thing.
I just have a quick side note that it's so funny because like I am that 26, but I'm 25-year-old psychology student, but I have a master's degree in psychology. So, and I also don't know why we're like bashing on journalism students, but whatever. Literally currently in my mother's basement, about to get an apartment because if you don't know, lots of things have changed in my life recently, so I just think it's funny. But I also don't think that like any of that means that I'm unqualified to be giving advice and also to be disproving what he is saying with facts and statistics. Honestly, just this like first minute right here, I always find so humorous, and it was kind of like a light bulb moment for me because the most common response that I get from Dave Ramsey stans when I talk about him, even when I'm just talking about the financial advice that I disagree with, or even just like the provable horrible things that he's done to his staff and just to the people around him, their only rebuttal to anything that I say, 95% of the time, is,
well, he's rich and you're not. You're so broke. Don't take advice from broke people. Show me your $1 million. Da da da.
I just find that so humorous because that's not disproving anything that I've said. Like, attacking someone, there's something that comes up a lot in this video, and it revolves around the logical fallacy of ad hominem fallacy, which a lot of us have probably heard about that, but all it is, if you don't know what it is, because I feel like I didn't know what that meant for a long time, is this idea of, instead of attacking someone's points with logic and facts, you are attacking the person themselves. So when he says, oh, it's just a bunch of 26-year-old journalism students attacking me, using me for clickbait, that's a logical fallacy, right? Because he's not proving his point, he's just trying to distract from what they are saying. Because it doesn't sound like a lot in this video that he has any concrete factual rebuttals to what they're saying. So of course, if you don't have that, a lot of times people just go to personal attacks. And we see that a lot just in Dave Ramsey, but we definitely see it a lot in this rant. And I think that that's important, right? It's important to call out when people are doing that. So if in the first minute of this, your only argument is, well, you're young and broke and in student loan debt, so you must not know what you're talking about, that's not really an argument. It's not proving your point at all. It's just showing that you're trying to be a bully and put other people down to build yourself up. And for me, it was a light bulb because hearing him say it, it's like word for word what I get in my comments. And I know he says this a lot in different ways, but I have a feeling, since this video has been watched so many times, this rant that he's doing, that is where these people are getting it from, like almost word for word what they're telling me in my comments. Because in my personal experience, no one I've ever met or seen who has a valid argument resorts to personal attacks, because they don't need to, right? They have the evidence, statistics, and they have a strong foundation for an argument to back up what they are saying. And if you have that, there's no reason to be attacking the person personally. There's no reason to be saying you must not know what you're talking about because of things that have nothing to do with the argument, right? Someone's major doesn't disqualify them from knowing what they're talking about. Someone's age, if they're living with their parents, if they have student loan debt, none of that invalidates an argument. And I think that is something to point out, right? Because right before he starts this, one of the first things he says is, you can't disagree with me because this is all factually proven. But he never goes on to talk about where these facts are, where these statistics are, right? And that's important, because if you're gonna say, you can't disagree with me, this is fact, but then just go into ad hominem fallacies and spouting your opinion, that becomes an issue. But he's doing that to distract from the situation, right? If he didn't make this big scene and say all of these like out there things and yell and scream, then people would probably be more apt to do what I'm doing and break down actually what he is saying and point out that he's trying to say that no one can disagree with him because it's all based on fact, yet pretty much everything he says in this video is based on an opinion, or at least I have to assume, because he doesn't give any backing to what he is saying, right? And even here in a minute, you'll see, he talks about how like, oh, all of this has been proven by the Bible and by your grandma, which both of those sources are not like, it's not research articles, right? Your grandma's opinion is not a fact. The Bible's interpretation of something, not a fact. If that's something that you want to live by, either one of those things, that's fine, like that's on you, but you can't use that saying because I have figured this all out in the Bible and the Bible says this and this is my interpretation of what the Bible says, then it's a fact. No, dude, who's buying that? Well, I guess because a lot of people are buying it. I'm not buying it.
If you do these 5 things from the Bible and from your grandmother, they're called common sense, you will win with money 100% of the time. Now, I don't know exactly how long it will take you, and I don't know what win with money will mean, because I cannot predict your income, and I cannot predict the tragedy that you will have to overcome. But subject to your income to tragedy ratio, to the extent you do these 5 things, you will win with money. You will become wealthy in North America.
He's so close to the point, right? Like, so close. Like, yeah, you can't predict someone's tragedy, the systems of oppression that they are going through, their income, their life situations. And I feel like most people would logically conclude that because of that, you cannot guarantee that they will experience, what did he call it? Win with money. You can't guarantee that, right? Because like you said, you can't predict the things that they are going through. You don't know their life situation. But instead, he's just like, yeah, I don't know your life situation, but I can tell you that no matter what any of that you're going through, no matter the racism, sexism, your abilities, it doesn't matter. You're still gonna win with money if you follow these 5 things. And that doesn't make any sense. That's been statistically proven to be false. And I wanna talk about that, right? Because I think it's important if he's saying, you can't disagree with me, this has all been proven, that if I'm going to disagree with him, that I come with facts that he's not coming with to show why he's wrong, statistically and factually. Because I don't know what data other than the Bible, which is all I can assume because that's all he references in this, that he's going off of. But my data from statistics are showing that this is not the case. If you're Black, a woman, person of color, disabled, trans, part of the LGBTQ community, you have obstacles in place that sometimes completely prevent you from being able to win with money or build wealth or even break out of the cycle of poverty. I just don't understand this. This video was published in 2019, how just less than two years ago, someone can still believe this when it's been proven time and time again that those systems are in place to keep people stuck in poverty. I've talked about this a lot over on Instagram, and I think it's important to talk about here, but I just want to hit on it really quick, some statistics that I have found. So with everything else being the same between them, Black people have an average of $24,000 in wealth, while white people have an average of $188,000. Household wealth in the last 30 years has changed only by $18,000 for Black families, and it's changed by over $300,000 for white families. Black people are twice as likely to be unemployed, see a third of the return on their college investment, and have nearly twice the amount of student loan debt. So spreading this narrative that he's trying to spread is toxic and not true. And this right here is my main issue with Dave Ramsey. Yes, there are some things financially that we disagree on or some methods, whatever, but a lot of the things that I disagree with him on and the things that I think are important to speak out against are ideas like this that either assume that you are a well-off white guy and then, yeah, maybe this stuff works for you. But on the other hand, spewing this nonsense and trying to pass it off as fact is harmful to the most oppressed people in our society. And that is my issue here. I mean, come on, dude. It's 2021. It's not cool anymore to pretend like systems of oppression do not affect your finances. That was disproven a long time ago.
If you will do these 5 things over and over again, number 1, you need to have a written plan, a budget. Jesus said, don't build a tower without first counting the cost, lest you get halfway up and you're unable to finish, and all who see you begin to mock you and say, this man began to build. No one began to build and was unable to finish. No one accidentally wins at anything. And you're not the exception. I don't like Dave Ramsey's advice. I don't give a crap. You're wrong. You have to do a written game plan with money or you're gonna lose.
So minus the screaming and yelling and name calling, I agree with the foundation of what he's saying here, that a budget is really important. For most people, in order to have any hope of breaking out of that paycheck to paycheck cycle, knowing what is going on with your finances, where your money is going, and trying to create a plan for that money is unbelievably important, especially when you're first starting out, right? I think that it's important to say that once you get into the groove of things, your budget can change over time and it doesn't have to look as strict and you might not follow it to a T, but having some sort of a plan for your money is really important. But never once have I seen a creator disagree with Dave Ramsey about this. I see people talk about him all of the time, and I don't think I've ever once seen someone complain that he tells people to make a budget. That's not the overwhelming issues that people have with him, right? And honestly, it feels like a little gaslighty here for him to be yelling and screaming, pretending like the main issue people have with him is that he's telling people to create a budget, when no, the main issue that people have with him is that he gives advice that is rooted in misogyny and racism and isn't backed by fact when he says that it is, and the fact that he calls people who disagree with him stupid and moronic, in the way that he treats his employees and the whole environment that he has set up at Ramsey Solutions, right? This is our issue, not telling people to budget.
Second thing is you got to get out of debt. Your most powerful wealth building tool is your income. And when you spend your whole freaking life giving your money to banks who fill up the skyline and have furniture nicer than yours, that makes you stupid. Get out of debt. When you don't have any payments, you know what you've got? Money. Do I care if you get out of debt? Yes, I want you to win. I want you to have a great life. But do I care if you agree with me? No. I don't care if you agree with me. If you don't agree with me about this money stuff, you're what's known as wrong. I've been doing this longer than most of my critics. They were peeing in their diaper while I was doing this stuff. They're wrong.
Okay, there's that ad hominem fallacy again. We've covered that enough to know that that's bullshit. Just because someone is younger than him does not make them stupid. It doesn't mean that they don't know what they're talking about, right? Also, this is one that, like, I don't have an issue with him telling people to be debt-free or teaching people how to be debt-free. My issue is this, like, black and white concrete thinking, right? And stating that people are wrong if they disagree with him, when mathematically, if we are coming at this saying, hey, actually, not all debt is bad, and there are actually ways for you to make money off of your debt or be in a better financial situation if you prioritize other things over your debt. That's mathematically true. So I don't understand where this idea is that he's coming from, that, like, being debt-free as quick as possible is factually proven to be the only way that you can win with money, because that's not true, right? Like, debt that is low interest, so debt that you're paying less than 7% interest every year on, actually you could make more money and be in a better financial situation and build wealth faster if you prioritize putting your extra money toward investing rather than paying off that debt. Because we know from statistics and from studying the stock market for years and years and years that on average the S&P 500, which is a group of the top 500 companies that are traded in the stock market, returns an average of 10% a year, right? So paying 7 but making 10. That means that you're making 3% every year off of not worrying about that debt that you have. Rich people do this all of the time. It's called leveraging. For some reason, it's not an issue when rich people leverage debt, but for poor people or people who aren't in that top 1%, then Dave is yelling at you, telling that you're stupid and don't know what you're talking about, if you're pointing out that this is something that's already being done. Is it, generally speaking, a good idea to, once you have an emergency fund and your basic needs are met, focus on high interest debt so that you're paying less in interest over time? Absolutely, because things like credit card debt, payday loans, that credit cards are like usually 20 to 30% interest. Payday loans can be hundreds, like 100%, 500% interest every year. That's a lot of money going toward interest. Totally agree that probably that's something that you're going to want to prioritize. But trying to put high interest debt and low interest debt in the same basket doesn't work mathematically. And this is what frustrates me so much about Dave, right? Because there's no gray area. There's no showing improvement. He talks about, like, it's a good thing that he's been doing this for 30 years and so he knows what he's talking about. But in my eyes, someone who is an expert, someone who's been doing this for 30 years, that's a strong point when they've shown growth, when they've shown, hey, this is where I started, and as I've had these years of experiences and I've listened to people and I've done research and I've learned and I've listened to others who have a different opinion from me, I've grown, and this is everything that I've learned along the way. I think that's a strong point. But when he's saying, I've been doing this for 30 years and it's been the same, he's had the same opinion on money, on politics, on finances, how politics play a role in finances for these last 30 years and has not shown any growth, That to me doesn't show that you know what you're talking about. That to me shows me that you are unwilling to grow and learn and become better. I started this whole world of personal finance like a year ago, and I've already grown so much, and there are so many things that I've already learned from people, and I hope that if I'm doing this in 30 years, that I don't have the same opinions that I have now, because I hope that I will have grown, I will have learned more, I will have adapted with the times, right? Why would I want to be doing the same thing, saying the same shit for 30 years, when we know that if I was believing what I believed 30 years ago, I would have missed out on a lot of personal and professional growth. So just in my opinion, that doesn't seem like a strong argument from where I stand.
Less than you make. Number 3. In the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil, but a foolish man devours all that he has. If you spend everything you make, you're a fool. Well, Dave, you don't know about my situation. In America today, wages are stagnant. So why are they stagnant at your house? You know where wages are stagnant? On people who are stagnant. You're only got stagnant wages if you decide to stay there and keep getting those wages. This is not Russia. You can quit. I don't like how much Walmart pays. I don't like how much McDonald's pays. So don't work there, stupid. Go to work for somebody else. I don't like how my company treats me. So leave. Go be somebody.
Okay, so like I mentioned in those statistics before, I've already proven that what he's saying is false. So many other people have already proven that what he is saying is not true in the US right now. And I will make sure to link all of that down below in the description box. But for me, it's just like, it like hurts me thinking that people who are in situations where they don't have a choice, right? There are people for so many reasons that can't leave their job, access to healthcare, ability, just access to jobs in general if you're living in a small town. It just, to me, it sounds so privileged to be saying this, right? Maybe his reality is that what he sees around him, it would be very easy for anyone to quit a job if they're not making enough money, and somehow magically go find a job that's willing to pay them more. But that's not the case, right? And there are so many other variables to think about. When we live in a country where your healthcare relies on your ability to get a full-time job and stay in it, and if you are sick or you have family members who rely on your healthcare that are sick, you can't risk that lapse, right? You can't risk quitting your job and not being able to find another one. That's not an option for a lot of people. So it just breaks my heart to think that one of these 3.5 million views, probably a lot of them, are people who are in these situations and they're being yelled at and called stupid by this guy who is held up to such a high standard as like the top money expert, and probably thinking to themselves that he's right, you know? Like, why would you not believe him? Everyone on the surface level is talking about how amazing this guy is, so obviously it must be a me issue. And that breaks my heart because it's so not true, and it's ignoring all of the other things that are at play here, right?
There's no reason that you have to be stuck somewhere because some liberal journalist said you were stuck. You're not stuck. You're stagnant. Don't be stagnant. You know what stagnant pond water does? It grows scum on top. You don't want to be stagnant. You get scummy. You need to go be somebody. You need to leave the cave, kill something, and drag it home. You need to decide that my life is not good enough the way it is, and so I am going to control the controllables. I am going to change some things. Because guess what? Nobody in Washington is going to fix your life. Santa Claus doesn't live there, baby. Have you noticed that the Democrats and the Republicans, neither one could freaking add? Have you ever had any of them send you money? No. They are not going to fix your freaking life. You are going to fix your life. You're going to get on a plan. You're going to get out of debt. You're going to live on less than you make.
So again, pretty much he's saying the same thing over and over again. It's on you. If you aren't moving up, if you are not improving your economic situation. And maybe that's true for like a white guy who is well educated and handsome and abled and cisgender and straight and has access to be making a bunch of money but just chooses to sit on the couch all day, which I have to admit, I don't know literally anyone like that, but this is the only person I could imagine that this would apply to, right? But the reality of it is that he says control the controllables. But not a lot of this is in your control. Yes, there are some things, depending on your abilities, depending on the privileges that you have, that are in your control. And I think it's important for people to feel empowered to do those things, like creating a budget, like setting goals and starting to figure out where they can find some wiggle room in their budget. But I also think it's important to understand that my ability to do that is going to be different from your ability. And that's going to be different from the person next to you, the person who's in a different state, the person who is fighting against all of these systems of oppression that some of us aren't. You know, it's the Harvard study that showed that with everything else being the same, given the same resume, one with a black sounding person's name and one with a white sounding person's name, the person who they presume is black is going to get a call back like less than half the time than the person who they presume to be white, even though the resume is exactly the same. It's that people are fighting against. It's the US government strategically segregating black and white neighborhoods through government regulations on housing that made it nearly impossible for black people to sell their houses for a higher price, to be able to move up, to gain wealth in their housing, which was like the number one way people were gaining wealth in the middle class back then, right? It's all of these systems that are completely out of your control that we have to talk about in personal finance. We cannot pretend any longer that these things don't exist. It's an injustice, and frankly, it's wrong and awful to be telling people this. And this narrative he's spewing is just so overdone, right? Like, it was overdone in the 2000s. Spewing this bullshit that people, like, they just have to rely on themselves, their situation is totally themselves, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's totally not true. It's been disproven so many times. And honestly, I just cannot believe that anyone is buying this anymore from this guy. And it's so frustrating because for a guy who's so hung up on repeating over and over again that his opinion is fact and that it's factually correct and that if you disagree with him, you're wrong, he's not proving anything. He's not providing any evidence, and he's just spewing things that have already been disproven. So I really think that he just says that it's factual and doesn't actually provide that evidence and rants and yells and screams and calls people stupid instead to distract from all that he is saying. And I think he's smart, you know, he got to where he is because he's intelligent. And I think he knows that if he changed his mind, if he came out and said, yeah, you know, looking at the evidence, I realize that I have a lot of room to grow. I need to start shifting my mindset and start incorporating this reality into personal finance and the advice I'm giving, it would show the fraud that he is, and it would show the unstable ground that he's been desperately trying to cling to for the last 3 decades. And I think that scares the shit out of him. So, okay, yeah, I guess his point number 3 was to live below your means. And that's great in theory, right? Again, if you have wiggle room and you're just overspending, great in theory. If you have the ability to increase your income, great in theory, but that's not most people's reality. So it's just so frustrating to hear him making these generalizations and to think about how that must make people feel.
You know how rich people get rich? They save money. Wow! I don't know if I agree with Dave Ramsey's investment assumptions. I don't give a crap if you agree with my investment assumptions. You know what my investment assumption is? My assumption is you're going to be broke until you save money. That's my assumption. You need to get up off your assumption and go do something. You need to get up off your assumption and start investing some money. 100% of the people that don't save money don't have any. Wow, how's that for insight? Doesn't take a freaking rocket scientist to figure this out. You know what the problem on your investments are? The problem with your investments is not your rate of return. It's not your expense ratio. It's not no load versus load. It's not your nerdy, twisted up, toxic butt opinion about some investment. Your problem with your investments is you don't have any. That's the problem with your investments. 100% of the people that build wealth save money on purpose a lot. Some people do it poorly in a stupid money market account and make no money on their money. Others do it wisely in mutual funds that outperform the S&P, or real estate that they pay cash for that outperforms the S&P. Others are just passive and do the S&P, and they all write books about it and all have a freaking opinion and make money off of you while you're stagnant.
I do agree with him that investing is really important, right? Saving, investing, they're two different things. But what he's saying here basically is that you need to be saving money, and more importantly, you need to be investing it. And I do agree with that, right? Like, that's really the only way for most people to build wealth. And to build wealth not in the way of being ultra rich, not in the way of being a billionaire or trillionaire, but in every day becoming a millionaire, building wealth, trying to create generational wealth so that your kids are safe and that you can provide for them. That's one of the only ways for most of us in the low and middle class to be able to do that. Totally agree with that. But the reason that I was like chuckling and just, it's unbelievable, right? Because he's promoting factuality and that you can't disagree with him. But he mentioned there that like his big thing is mutual funds, right? And I'm not one to like argue over specific investments or like specific crypto or stocks that you should be following. I don't care about that. But if we're talking facts, he's saying, oh, these people invest in mutual funds that outperform the S&P 500, when factually, Dave, 60% of mutual funds don't outperform the S&P 500 or whatever it is that they are trying to outperform. They actually usually underperform them. So it's just laughable, right? Because he's talking about statistics, he's talking about facts, yet throughout this entire video, if he ever does talk about anything that could be a fact, it's easily disproven. So it's so ironic, right? Because he's yelling at people for being stagnant, but he's continuing to promote and invest in mutual funds that more than half of the time don't perform up to the standards that they're supposed to and cost people more money. I mean, I don't know about you, but it sounds pretty stagnant to me. Sounds like a scummy pond situation, if there ever was one.
That's stupid. Don't be stagnant. Invest money, save money. You know how you're going to do that? You're going to be on a plan. You're going to get up out of debt. You're going to live on less than you make. And voila, there is money in the budget. It's called margin, baby. And now you got the money to be rich. You got to act like rich people. And that's not go spend a bunch of money, moron, because rich people don't go spend a bunch of money. I'm going to go buy a Ferrari. I'm acting like rich people. No, you're acting like a moron. That's not, Ferraris aren't rich people. That's the ultra rich. You don't buy a Ferrari if you're a millionaire. That's it's crazy, you people. You know, I'm going to act rich. I'm going to rip people off. That's just a liberal nonsense. Rich people don't rip people off. They didn't get rich by ripping people off. That's just stupid. Don't be stupid. It makes you look bad. Don't do that. And if you'll get out of debt and you'll invest and you live on less than you make and you have a plan, then you can do the last one. It's the most fun you'll ever have with money. You can be outrageously generous, randomly generous, lavishly generous. But broke people can't do that because they sit around and discuss their investment philosophies.
Okay, when I was like outlining this, because I was watching beforehand, right, to know if they're going to be interesting and to know kind of like what I want to say, but not exactly. I didn't hear that part about the fact that broke people can't be generous, which just... Obviously, we all know why that is not true. There are more ways to be generous than just monetarily, Dave, but moving on, I had other points to make. I agree with him that most like millionaires, right, don't go out and splurge all of their money, because I think that sometimes a lot of people don't realize the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire and how much more money a billion is than a million. Most, like a millionaire is probably like a retiree. Like most people to retire need around $1 million if they're gonna live off of like $50,000 a year, right? So it's not like that's like an unbelievable, unfathomable amount of money when you're looking at living off of it for the rest of your life. So I get what he's saying there, and I think that it is important that we distinguish between rich and the ultra rich, right? Wealthy and the ultra wealthy, because a lot of times the means of gaining that wealth are different. But I think if he's going to distinguish between the wealthy and the ultra wealthy when talking about buying Ferraris, that it's also important to distinguish between wealthy and ultra wealthy when we're talking about taking advantage of people and ripping people off. Because yeah, there are tons of ethical ways, as ethical as you can get in capitalism, to build wealth and not have to take advantage of people, to just invest and not have to scam people or make scummy business schemes or create a business that you're not paying people a livable wage while you're just raking in billions of dollars, right? But that's not the case for being a billionaire. Like, there is no ethical way to become a billionaire without taking advantage of tons and tons of people. And I know that's not the point he's making, but I think it's important to point out that if we are going to separate, which I think we should, wealth from ultra wealth, that we talk about the difference between those two and make it important to point out that in personal finance, the goal is not to become Jeff Bezos rich, right? The goal is to become rich enough that you can build wealth for your family, for yourself, to live a life that you're comfortable with, to be able to put your kids through college if you want to, or go vacation and enjoy your family when you want to, and retire comfortably and not have to worry about living in poverty at retirement. And I think it's important to make that distinction, not only in buying Ferraris, but also just generally in personal finance advice that we're giving. Well, I think that's it. I think I made most of my points here. I honestly, when I clicked on this video the first time, was not expecting it to be as problematic as it is. It's just really frustrating that even just 2 years ago, he still is saying this and still is getting so many views off of putting people down and putting people who are probably stuck in their situation because of systemic oppression and not just because of their choices, and making them feel stupid and less than for that. It hurts my heart so much. And it's like one of the main reasons that I started the ATB, and something that every decision I make, I think of that, because I'm so done with this narrative in personal finance. I'm so done ignoring systems of oppression, pretending like it's all on the person to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, making fun of people who disagree with you, trying to make the people who built him, right? Like, he made his wealth off of teaching people about money, not off of like actually taking his own advice first. And he used those people and now is calling them all of these names and putting them down. And it just aggravates me. It makes me so angry that he's doing this and getting away with it and making so much money off of it. So, yep, you can call me the stupid 25-year-old living in their parents' basement using your face for clickbait. That's fine with me, because I think that I have shown many reasons, many factual reasons why what he is saying is wrong. And hopefully, if you are someone who is watching this or has listened to Dave and has felt less than, I hope that from this video you know that there are many of us personal finance creators out there that don't agree with this and who see through this and who know he's wrong and who are not going to shame and guilt you for the situation that you're in. So yeah, I really hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did, please remember to give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm, helps boost this video to the top. That way more people can find this content. And if you stayed all the way through and you're some Dave Ramsey stan who hates this video, also feel free to give it a thumbs down. It also helps out the YouTube algorithm. Also feel free to leave me a comment with any of your opinions, because again, helps out the YouTube algorithm. And since I'm just here for the clickbait, you know, might as well use it while I can. But anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Bye.